So today we're going to do chapter 20, Healing Crisis with Michael Ryce and Jeanie Ryce. So the session is recorded and shared publicly to support others in these teachings. And just a quick share of all the events can be found on Meetup. All the Hear My Voice Book Club sessions can be found there. And just to say that this week we've got children's meditation on tomorrow. It's a separate Zoom link, so you just have to message for that. All the other Zoom links are the same. Hear My Voice Book Club runs non-profit events, so everyone can take part, regardless of financial status. But if any donations, please to support Michael in these teachings. You can go over to whyagain.org, donations, if you feel the desire to appreciate Michael after this. And share, just saying Malachi then, that's my son's name. I've just been calling. So we've got both Jeanie Ryce and Michael Ryce joining us this evening. Michael is the founder and director of Heartland Self-Healing Centre. Michael lectures and a teacher of on health and healing and true meaning of true forgiveness. Michael is married to Jeanie Ryce. And in our previous chapter, Richard, a successful man in his late 30s, following a breakup of another marriage, had contacted Michael. Richard felt his life was a mess and was desperate and wanted Michael's help. In the previous chapter 19, Inherited Patterns, this work is about taking on generations for the generations. What you don't deal with will be passed on. What you are willing to face, sort out and heal will no longer affect family dynamics. We took a look at how to heal the generational patterns.
And we're both delighted to be here. I ended up with a slight misbooking today, and so we're going to go through the healing crisis lesson, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jeanie, and she's going to do a worksheet with Yinka. How cool is that?
Awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Honored and delighted. I'm actually sitting in my car in Bristol, Virginia right now. I love this technology. It's pretty amazing.
It is. You can just do it anywhere around the world and connect. Yeah. I shall go straight into it because we've got bad news, Richard. So everyone, there's bad news. Ooh.
But the bad news is really good news, so let's go for it.
Yeah. So the bad news is you can't run away from your pain. Rather than run away from pain, we need to face it. Escape is not a part of the process.
And that's when you get to, as you face the pain, you find that it's something that it's an energy that you've been pushing away from yourself until it's become deleterious to tissue. And when you face it, you get to embrace and bring that energy forward and go through a healing process, which is the process of removal of what never belonged. It's interesting how when we want to hide from something, we hide it in one place where it's always going to show up again, and that's inside of ourselves.
So reaching new levels of empowerment, you have also gives you the strength to delve into new depths of your healing, which is not always Dr. Feelgood. And I certainly know this from doing these teachings.
Welcome to the club.
As you recognize the next level of your work, it is important to remember the cosmic grace willingness.
Yeah, when we get out of the mindset that culture's brainwashed us in that we're physical beings, and much as this next picture shows us, we realize we're energetic beings, then ultimately what we need to do is to become proficient at handling energy. And that's the whole crux and process of disease. When we don't want to handle it, we stuff it down, we hide it. But we hide it with the same qualities that it came into us with, And therefore, when we choose to finally deal with it and move through it, it's going to exit with those same qualities. And in essence, that's what in the system medicine I'm trained in, naturopathy, that's basically what's called a healing crisis.
So moving into the release mode, as you have, old energies from the past are felt as though they are present moment experience. They are not. Things seem the darkest because you are accessing new depths, hidden perhaps for years, maybe even for generations. This part of your work is
All right,
called
you've had your
healing
turn. Come on,
crisis.
my go.
I'm just going to mute everybody. So if you've got questions or you want, please put them in the chat. I've just muted everybody. And so Michael, you can just unmute because you're a host as well.
Good.
And Jeanie also. So healing crises are usually experienced on 3 levels. When an energy goes into the human system, it creates symptoms. When the symptoms of a degenerative energy are suppressed, as with the use of drugs, they do not leave the system, but are driven deeper into tissue. This happens whether the suppressed energy is physical, mental, or emotional.
And so if it creates a certain symptom on the way in, when you finally decide to handle it and it starts to move out, obviously exiting the system, the symptoms are going to be the thing. So there's absolutely no difference symptomatically between the disease process and the healing process. The only difference is which way is the energy moving.
So each release of old diseases, energies, is experienced and felt in the same way, with the same intensity as that then when they entered the system as disease. Willingness is the cosmic grease that accelerates and eases the process of release. So on a physical level, as the energy releases, it looks like old physical symptoms and low energy. On the mental level, release looks like any kind of negative thoughts, and on the emotional level, it feels like any old feelings that has ever been suppressed. Release can also put in its appearance as depression. These are all desirable states.
If you're breathing and you're moving in the direction of healing, you want to be able to embrace those energetic patterns and move through them rather than hold your breath and hide from them. The idea is to embrace them. And, there's a master solvent for trauma that each of us has direct access to. And that master solvent of trauma is the active presence of love. So when we approach any kind of old symptom producing energy, and at the same moment are holding love conscious, active, and present, then those energies weaken and dissolve, and we're freed of them. It's literally like applying sunshine to a puddle of water. It steps up the energetic pattern of the water until the water becomes gas and is liberated. Exactly the same thing happens when love is present and there's trauma in the system.
So, right, Michael, in the past, I would have accused you of being crazy, but I'm really starting to hear you with different ears. It's a strange sensation finding myself saying, I'm willing to purposely experience pain. I have one problem though. If I'm going to experience all these symptoms, how will I know if I'm in one of these healing crises or if I'm sick? So how do we know the difference?
Well, you'll see there's several earmarks as will unfold as we move forward.
A question to all yous are you willing to experience the pain of a crisis healing to achieve the healing that you have joined this session today to experience? And you can put it in the chat. I know we have got a few Zoom trolls, which I will remove as they come in. If they continue to come in, I'll just block people from being able to come in. We've got a yes from Giselle. She's ready.
One of the other things that you want to make sure is as an accompaniment of holding the presence of love is that keep the breath moving. You know, in the ancient teachings, they said the veil of the temple must be rent in twain, and that's been interpreted as some kind of a religious idea about a purple curtain in a church or something. The temple is the body-mind unit, and the veil is the barrier between the conscious and, or pardon me, the subconscious and the unconscious. And you look at the average person when they're in pain and trauma, and what they're doing is holding their breath. And by holding the breath, what they're doing is locking that trauma energy into tissue. And so you want to move into the habit when you access something that's less than love, continuing to move the breath. And the breath becomes the catalyst that assists in burning off the energies that don't belong.
So ultimately, you must be in touch with what is going on in your system and make the determination for yourself as to the nature of your symptoms. There are 3 signals which can assist you in determining whether or not symptoms are healing in process.
Let's take a look at those 3 things.
So first, you've reached a new level of vitality. Second, you are doing your inner work and more of the right things. Third, there is an increase in elimination and any or all of the eliminative channels, the skin, lungs, bowels, bladder, or mucous membranes increase their output. If your answer to all 3 of these signal is yes, when you are symptomatic, you are likely in a healing crisis. It's time to use the tools, rest, and remember the cosmic grace. Be willing.
And breathe.
And breathe.
Yeah. You're going to do a worksheet with Jeanie shortly. You're going to get to do that, right?
Yes. And I'm going to remember to breathe. It's interesting when something comes up straight away, the automatic is, you don't even realize it's to hold your breath. And even if
It's
it's
an
just for
old
that short
unconscious
time.
dynamic that's been going on with humanity for too long. And we had nobody told us that's how you take energies you don't want to deal with and you lock them in tissue. Like, why didn't they tell us that?
Maybe they didn't even realize.
No, yeah, it's unconscious. Yeah.
So any or all of the limited channels, the skin, lungs, bowels, bladder, or mucous membranes increases their output. Oh yeah, so I've just done this one. If the answer is to all 3 is yes, when you are symptomatic, you are likely to be in a healing crisis. It's time to use the tools, rest, and remember the cosmic grace of be willing and to breathe.
Yeah.
So we've got a key thought. When in pain, you have 2 choices. One is healing, any other, no matter what it leaves you in your pain. It's interesting how quickly we choose the other, though.
Well, and really, it's not a choice at all. It's just an old decision playing out in the mind. It's like an automatic pattern playing out. And to bring in the activity of choice is to change those decisions that are already stored within the mind of the body. And so it's really, it's the effort it takes to introduce something new to the system and do something other than what automatic pilot says we always do.
So recall that the key to process and healing is holding a space of love. So just take a moment to close your eyes and allow yourself to become quiet. With your awareness focus inside, think of that which inspires in you the clearest, strongest, most powerful love you are capable of feeling. So remember to breathe as we go through this worksheet, and I may need reminding of that. So if any triggers come up for yourself, to breathe.
We will breathe with you, Yinka. And appreciate your willingness.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So just to share that the next chapter is chapter 21, Waking from the Has-Been, and that's Thursday the 27th of June. We are going to go into a reality management worksheet. So if you want to get your pens and paper and have a go with this as well.
So that was a rather quick chapter, and appreciate the opportunity to share it with you. And just to reinforce this idea that we are not physical beings, we are energetic beings. If we listen to Albert Einstein, he says this, on such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy, energy whose vibrations have been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. We live in an energetic world, and breath is the controller of the flow of energy. Shut it off, energy stops moving. Crank it up, energy rocks, energy moves. So if something's moving in you that you'd like to get through, key way to that is to breathe. And then, of course, to step into the forgiveness process, which we've gone over many times. There are several sessions in Yinka's archives and on our YouTube page where we've done a full worksheet process with someone. And then Jeannie's about to step in and walk Yinka through the step-by-step process. So you get to review the whole thing right now. So thank you, Jeannie, for being here, and blessings, Yinka.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, blessings. Bye-bye. Oh, that's good.
The reality management worksheet. My reality perpetual output constructed by my mind, wake up sheet. Change your mind, change your life. The how-to of true Aramaic forgiveness. Forgiveness, the tool for waking up from and changing my reality. Premise, my essential nature, my human life, my very being is love. Hold a newborn baby. Newborn. The goal of this internal forgiveness wake-up sheet is to empower me to remove fear and or hostility and return me to the direct experience of love 24/7, 365 days. So I, Yinka, who I'm love, I'm experiencing, and the emotion is guilt.
Be sure to use a separate worksheet for each emotion. A lot of times in one situation, we may have, guilt, sadness, fear, anger, all these things, and each one is a separate worksheet, even though it's on one situation or one event.
Because after last session that Michael was here when he did a worksheet, I decided to do all my worksheets, just for now, on guilt, because I realised that's where I spend most of my emotional time in.
Okay.
But today I will go with guilt.
Okay.
See where that takes us.
Awesome. And breathe.
With that anticipation of, oh, I wonder what's going to come off. Sometimes it's helpful to date your worksheets and the number, so you know how many worksheets you've done.
What is your emotional upset level right now?
If I tune into it, it could probably 8 or 9.
Okay.
I'm going to draw the emotion.
Can be very powerful to draw in these little blocks on the worksheet, because sometimes the events began even like sometimes even when we were pre-verbal. And so sometimes, you know, we're able to scribble a feeling or whatever where we can't seem to exactly put it in words.
Mine's just like a spiral scribble, like it's all mingled.
Okay.
So if I'm in pain, my thinking is an error. Should I read these out?
Or I can read them for you if you like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my denial displaces my experience of myself as my essence love, and my mind tells me that my emotions, which in this case is guilt, is caused by my trigger. Who are you focused on in this worksheet?
So, because I have guilt in the area of all those people that are close to me, family.
Okay.
But would you choose somebody
Um,
specific?
I would choose one person, one event, because you know, a lot of times if you get too broad, you won't see the change as much as if you're very specific, you know, this person or this event, and this was my perception of it. You know, and it may be very, very similar, you know, like the perception of the story could possibly be the same for all of these people. But, you know, let's pick just one person.
Wondering which ones.
Which one's been in your face recently?
They're all in my face every day.
Say it again.
They're all in my face every day.
Oh.
So probably my ex-partner and my children.
Okay.
So
Let's change that to former partner
former
instead
partner.
of ex-partner. Yeah, we tell people, you know, if they talk about an ex-wife or an ex-husband, instead of crossing them out, you know, just refer to them as former. It puts a little bit different feeling towards them, gives a little compassion.
We'll go with that then, former partner, because I've never done it with the words of former partner.
Okay. And what's your perception? What's the story?
So the story is, I feel guilty when I have to express something that they've done.
Oh, okay, like express it to the children or
To that the former partner.
oh, okay.
And have to point something out.
Oh, okay. All right. Read next slide. So the truth is my thought caused my emotional upset. Take a breath. So what is the thought? And here again, just like if you had several emotions, they would have different thoughts behind them. So each one would be a different worksheet. But so when you're thinking of having to point something out to your former and it brings up guilt, what's the thought behind that? Why would you feel guilty for bringing something up?
It's a sense that I'm like the bad person for pointing it out.
Mm. Were there ever times, and perhaps your former, also did it, like if you pointed something out, then they turned it around on you and made you the guilty one, or made you, you were the bad person or whatever. Does that happen though by other people in your life as well?
It probably is actually a pattern.
Okay. And so take a breath. So the thought that triggers your guilt when you have to point something out to him is that you're a bad person. Take a breath. Okay. Next slide. I want to punish my former by, what would you like to do? Not that you would ever do it, but what thought crosses your mind, that
It's
you
a
would like to
sense,
do to him.
yeah, kind of like push away, just, yeah, get rid of.
Okay. Eliminating.
Yeah.
And how about yourself? Is there a punishment there?
Beat myself up.
Beat yourself up?
Yeah, internally.
Yeah. It was what this made me think of. I'm writing this as we go too. It made me think of a worksheet that I did one time, and my punishment to them was I was going to leave. And my punishment to myself was I'll stay. So talk about a house divided against itself. All right, so take a deep breath.
I definitely resonate with that.
I am willing to process all disease as I go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. And this is an important step because being willing, a lot of people, that's why they don't want to do the healing process. They don't want to go there. But, like we talked in the chapter that was just read, as symptoms go into your system, as you're healing, they come back out and they look the same, but they're moving in the opposite direction. So you have to be willing, okay, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever comes up as I'm processing this, I'm willing to go through it. I was, this has been a few months back, but I was working around some issues that my mom's been gone since 2017, but I was working on some issues around mom and leaving home and things like that when I was 16 years old. And I came across, physically, my throat like closed in. I couldn't hardly swallow. I couldn't drink water. And I thought, gosh, what's wrong with me? I went to my physician, which thank goodness he's very much like Michael. And so they tested me first for COVID and strep, and those came back negative. And I said, I have been doing work around when I was 16 and had issues with mom and left home. And I said, at that time, I got mono, and that's what this feels like. And so they tested me for mono. And what was really strange is the test results came back that yes, I had mono, but it was not current, that it was an old episode of mono, that it was leaving my system. So it was really weird that even the blood test could show up that the symptoms of mono was going out, that it was just symptomatic. I didn't have an active case of it. And so, you know, I had to get like some IVs of fluid and things like that because I couldn't drink or swallow. So I was getting dehydrated, and they added vitamin C in it and things like that. So just staying with it, you know, another doctor would have been, you know, well, let's give her some steroids or something like that. And that would have just stuffed the energy back in again for me to look at again. And so being willing to, okay, you know, it's not fun. It's not Dr. Feelgood, but I'm willing to go through it. You check that off and you breathe. My desire, the constructive result, the exact goal that drives my pain perception is that I want my former, which is your trigger, to. So in this situation where you have to point something out to him, what is it you really want from him?
Supposed to be kind about it. There's part of me that just wants him to see it for himself, that I don't have
Okay.
to point it out.
Okay. So that I can. So you want him to see it himself, so you don't have to point it out, so that you can what?
So I can just get on with my life and in peace.
Okay. It might also have something to do with if you look back at your emotion and you feeling guilty and that you're a bad person because you have to point it out to him. Perhaps if he saw it himself and you didn't have to point it out, and you could see yourself as the awesome person that you were or are. So you can feel at peace, so you can experience relief. Huh?
So then I won't have to feel guilty.
Right. So I can feel innocent. How about that?
Yeah.
The reason I changed that, you know, just like in the goal, when we get down to it here in a second, we always want, or when we cancel the goal, but we always want that to be in positive, you know, because if you said, you know, so if you said it negative, like, you know, to eliminate himself or whatever, you want it to be positive, not negative. And so for the same thing, so that I can, instead of saying so that I don't feel guilty, then so I can feel innocent. Okay. Breathe. I choose love, my essence, which stirs the love in everyone involved. Breathe.
Whatever it's triggering, I can feel anger churn.
Okay. And anger is actually a drug to cover the pain. So when you think of, you know, having to point something out to him, another aspect of that is that he's not being responsible. He's not, you know, seeing it himself. He's not, you know, noticing what's the obvious maybe, but there's a fear or a pain underneath that. And so the anger is actually what's covering that. So if you dropped, and this is actually another worksheet, but let's do this anyway. If you drop the anger that just come up about that, what's the fear or the pain that's underneath?
Sadness, just a separation of.
Separation of you and him, of the kids, of yourself. Separation of what?
It creates a separation between me and him.
Okay. So when you feel like you have to point something out to him that he doesn't see it himself and you feel guilty about it, are you taking on the blame for that separation?
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Dad, I'm the one that says it. He pointed it out. If I hadn't have said anything.
Okay.
But then the anger comes because I can't live my life like that.
Right. Take a deep breath. The rose and the butterfly. Do you have this one actually as a slide, or because I can tell the story if you don't have it?
I've not got it as a slide. I've just put it as a rose and butterfly.
Okay.
I do
So
have the
this
story.
is, yeah, so there's a story of a rose and a butterfly, and they meet and they fall in love and they have this awesome time together in this beautiful garden. And then one day the butterfly flies away. And because the rose thought there was nothing greater than the love of that butterfly, it uproots itself to give chase. What happens to the rose when it uproots?
Dies.
It's going to die because it puts something else more important than staying connected to its source. So when we put our fear or our anger or our guilt or our shame or whatever, and hanging on to that as more important than staying connected to love, which is our source, we actually initiate our own death because those energies become disease. They manifest physically. And if we don't deal with it, then different parts start to fall apart. And so ultimate healing is to face it, to look at it, to stay connected to source as you go through it. When upset, my perception, which is my mind's construct, is built out of corrupt data driven by my goal. So it's not that there's anything wrong with the goal for him to see it for himself or for you to feel innocent. There's nothing wrong with that. But if connected to, it's like file folders. So you have the folder with the goal in it, and then you have folders that maybe is, full of how many times someone made you feel guilty or, pointed out to you that you were guilty or said something that indicated you were not innocent. How many times did people not see for themselves? And even as a child, maybe you felt like you had to point out to people, so all of these things are connected. And so when that goal for that person to see for themselves and for you to feel innocent, when that goal is resonated, then any file that's connected to it's going to resonate at some level. So it's not that there's anything wrong with the goal, but we got to cancel the goal, which is the driver that selects the data that produces the reality. When we cancel the goal, that errant perception will collapse, and I can drop into the parts of my mind that's been hidden from me by pretending that others are responsible for what I've created. Again, breathe. If they are the one with the problem, why am I the one with pain? If you look at the situation with your former, he probably really doesn't care that whether you feel innocent or guilty or whatever, but it's your pain about it. So you can't change him. You can only change what's going on inside of you. But it's kind of like, have you ever played tug of war or tug of rope where, there's kids on one side and kids on the other, and you're pulling back and forth, back and forth. Well, if you've got, your end of the rope is guilt and pain, his end of the rope may be anger and intimidation or manipulation. Well, if you drop your end of the rope, you heal your guilt and your pain and your blame and those things that you're carrying. It changes his game if you drop the rope, because he's playing by himself then. So he will either have to change, stop the game, go play it with someone else, but it will change what's going on outside when you take care of what's going on inside. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is an action step. So while holding love conscious, active, and present, that's Ratma, I now choose to collapse my mind's lie by willingly canceling my goal for my former to see things for himself, and I cancel my need to feel innocent. So take a breath and cancel those two goals.
What do you do when you're in resistance of canceling a goal?
Okay. And that happens a lot. It's like, why should I let go of this goal? You take a breath. And the next step of this is, because we can't do it on our own. And, there is a power that is put in us. It's called Rukadikutsha. And it's been translated as the Holy Spirit, but it's more an elemental force, just like the wind, water, fire. But it's inside humans. And we're not puppets, so we have to invite her. She's feminine. We have to invite her into activity. It's like the GPS in the car. It'll tell you, okay, from where you are to where you want to go, this is the best route. But you have free will, and you can turn down 1st Street instead of 10th Street or whatever. The GPS will say, recalculating. It doesn't jump off the dash and beat you up because you didn't follow its direction. But so Rook is there to help us undo all of these things and to help guide us and send us in the right direction if we're willing, and we ask her to, we invite her to. But the first step before, we can hang on to it as long as we want, and she won't take it. So we have to be willing to say, okay, I'm in resistance here, but I cancel my goal. And I cancel my goal for him to see it. I cancel my goal for me to be seen as innocent. And Ruka, I need help right now because this is a big one for me. Help me to let this go. Help me to, see myself as innocent regardless, but to cancel my need for it right now so that I can see why I'm not creating it. We are all creators, created in the image of God, in the image of the Creator. So if there's something we want in our life, why have we not created it? Because there's a part of us somewhere inside that either believes it'll never happen for me, or I'm not worthy, or I can't have it, or it's true for everybody else, but it's not true for me. And until we change that part of us, that's like hanging on to it, and Rick is going to say, if you want to hold on to this pain and whatever, that's your choice, and she'll let us. So take a deep breath and just, some people say fake it till you make it. You may have to do this worksheet 100 times, but at the moment, just take a breath and say, okay, I want to do things differently. So I am going to cancel my goal for my former to see things for himself, and I cancel my need to feel innocent. And take a deep breath. And then the next slide will tell us about Ruka. I invite, and you can call her whatever you want, spirit, God, love, whatever. In Aramaic, it's Ruka Dikucha, to incline me toward healing. Check it off. I invite Ruka to restore me to my newborn essence love, to heal my denial and my capacity to generate the emotion of guilt. Help me open a direct conscious relationship with and gently remove the denied, dissociated, and projected parts of my mind. Check it off. So let's stop here for just a moment. Take a deep breath. Go back and look at, okay, I'm willingly cancel my goal for my former to see it himself. Cancel my goal to feel innocent. And Ruka, help me do these things. I cancel my need to be right. That's another one. It's like, but I am right. I have to point this out to him. And, this is true. This is a fact. Cancel your need to be right. And to make up another story, we can do that. We can go from one story to the other of why this is true for us out of my hidden corrupt data and hallucinate proof that my fear or hostility-based story, my reality, is true. Breathe and soften. Sometimes it's a hard one to see, it is true. There is a fact of this is going on out here in the world. This is truly what he is doing. But what's going on in me is a different story. And that's the one that I can change. That's the one that's in pain. And when we can change that part of us, and like I said, sometimes it may take us 100 worksheets to do it. But we can get to the point where it's like we're the observer. So like you're seeing him and you see him what he's doing. You may choose to still point out to him, of something that went on. But you can do it from a point of, okay, here's a fact. What you do with it's up to you. And you can be unattached to whether he accepts it or rejects it or gets mad or whatever. If you can do that, if you can present from a loving space, this is a fact. This is something that you need to see and not be attached to the outcome of offering it. It's kind of like watching yourself in a play or something, that you're not so absorbed in being right and him seeing it your way and changing his point of view, and that you can just offer the information and, be okay with whether he takes it or doesn't take it. And you can release the need to feel guilty. You can see yourself as innocent and know, I'm presenting this from a loving space for the benefit of our children, and, receive it or not and be okay with that. So you can eventually get to that. Like I said, it may take doing it multiple times. The thing that came in my mind, there was a movie, and we've mentioned it a lot of times on the show and stuff, but it's called Amish Grace. And it's a true story that took place in Pennsylvania. And this man went into an Amish school. His daughter had died. And it was like he was so mad at God that the way that he could think of getting revenge on God was going to this Amish school, because they were, he knew they were godly people. and he went in and he shot 10 girls. And I don't remember exactly, I think 5 of them died. And this one mother, 2 of the girls that died were her children. And the man killed himself too. But then the wife of the man, the Amish community came to support her in her grief. And she was like, how can you do that? How can you be kind to me after what Charlie did to your children? And this one mother, she says, every day, she said, when I realize the silence in my house means my girls are not coming back. She said, I get so angry, but I know that that anger is going to eat up my heart and turn it into a battlefield. And I don't want that. And so I have to let it go. I have to forgive. And she said, and sometimes I have to do that the next minute and the next minute and the next. It's not overnight, but we're the ones that benefit from it.
I can definitely relate to that because I feel like it's eaten me away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it probably doesn't even impact him at all. If his thing that he needs to heal, and just like you need to heal guilt, blame, and thinking you're not innocent, he needs to heal, anger and manipulation and control or whatever. And so when those interactions happen between you, you go into a diseased state over it, and it probably feeds his, which he doesn't see it, but it's actually creating a diseased state for him as well, because it's just amplifying what he's really needing to heal. And he, probably doesn't see that or understand that. But you do, and you can get to the point where, you may have to, let go of the goal for him to see it, let go of the goal for him to be responsible or whatever. And you may have to do it 10 times an hour. But you're the one that will benefit from letting that go.
So on the worksheet, would you do the same situation with each emotion then? Would you choose whatever other emotion comes up?
Right. So you could actually take several of the worksheets, and at the, what happened, pointing out to him something that he did. And it still may be, the former, or it could be, you might leave that blank too, but the emotion, we're doing guilt. You might do one on sadness, but then the thought behind the sadness is, it could be, instead of I'm a bad person, it might be, why can't life be better? Or this isn't the dream I had. The emotion might be anger, and it might be, why do I have to do his work and mine as parents? So each emotion will have a different thought behind the emotion. And each emotion, so it may be the exact same situation, the exact same person, but then again, and the punishment may be the same, to eliminate him or push him away, to beat yourself up or stay. But your goal will be different. Like for guilt and having to, point something out to him, you want him to see it for himself. If it were sadness, it might be, why can't he be more supportive? Or for anger, it might be, why doesn't he grow up? So each emotion could have a different thought behind it and have a different goal that you're wanting from them. And then again, you could do the same worksheet with guilt and the same, thoughts and the same goals and everything, but it could be on your former. Then it could be that there was a situation where the person is maybe a peer, or maybe a sibling, or maybe even your child. You know, you could fill that in, you know, that you feel guilty and the focus would be on, say, your child, that you're having to point out to them what they ought to know already. You know, having to tell them
Mhm.
for 100 times, pick up your room or whatever. So, you know, it could be different people that have a slant on the exact same desire, the exact same thought. You know, I want them to do it for themselves. I want them to be responsible. I want them to help support me, you know, give me some assistance. It could be so that you, and again, so that you feel innocent. Because I know, you know, sometimes when we, even on our children, you know, if we discipline them, and that doesn't mean beat up on them, but if we're trying to teach them something, then a lot of times we might, you know, still feel, you know, oh, you know, I must have done something wrong as a mother, or, you know, now they're not going to be my friend as well as my child. You know, I mean, they could bring up a lot of emotions going through that same, you know, having to point things out to them and making you feel like you're the bad person in the picture when you're just really doing something that's responsible. So you can do.
Pattern in my life. I can see, that's why I decided to pick guilt, as in that's the pattern I can see within all my close relationships.
And so behind the guilt is probably the thought that you're responsible in some way for them and their actions. And, you know, perhaps even beyond that might be, you know, I'm a failure because, you know, they should already see this. I shouldn't have to point it out to them. So I must have done something wrong that they're not cooperating. But letting go of that, the guilt, you know, it's, you can only change what's going on in you. You are not responsible for all these other people in your life or how they respond or how they look at the situation. You know, you can come to, you know, you can hold people accountable from a loving space. And if you try to hold someone accountable out of your hostility or fear, you will do something you regret. It'll go the wrong way. It'll go south real quick. But you can connect to love, breathe, and still hold them accountable. You know, even to the point, you know, there was someone back when I was 17 years old. I should have held them accountable by calling the cops on them, and I didn't. And I went through years of, you know, well, I must have deserved what they did to me. You know, so I just kept it quiet, didn't tell anybody, and didn't hold them accountable. And, you know, I've done a lot of worksheets, and it's been, you know, 50 years since I've laid eyes on him. And I think now I could run into him on the street and not have murder in my heart. You know, I mean, even though I hadn't seen him, still holding that, you know, for what he did, that wasn't fair, you know, and, you know, but I could have from a loving space said, you know, what you did was inappropriate and it was damaging to me, and I'm holding you accountable. I'm calling the cops on you. And, you know, if you go to prison for it, you know, it's the consequences of your behavior, not because I told on you. But, you know, it would be like a lot of us would hold on to, oh, but then if they get punished for it, that's my fault too. Instead of instead of looking at it that they are getting the results of their behavior. You know, every behavior, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, has a result. Some people call it a consequence, but there's like a cause and an effect. It's one of the laws of the universe. And you can't do a cause that is, you know, hostile or fearful or vindictive or whatever without reaping the effect of that. And vice versa, you know, if you do something from a loving, wonderful space, then your result's going to be loving and wonderful, you know, and you're going to reap that. So when you start beating yourself up and taking on the guilt and the blame because everybody else in your realm are doing things, and whether it's true that they think it of you or whether you just think they think it of you, you know, oh, they're blaming me for this, or they see me as a bad person, or they whatever, you know, any of our thoughts may be true about the person we're speaking of, but we know it's true about us. So when we have thoughts that, oh, they think I'm a bad person, they may or may not, but that tells you think you're a bad person. And that's what you need to let go of, because you're not. You were created in the image of God, and you deserve abundance of everything just because he put the breath of life in you. You don't have to prove it or prove that you're worthy of it or that, you know, deserve it or whatever. You do. It's your birthright. And so we need to let go of all of the things we think about ourselves. And those are stories we've been told that we bought into, usually as a child. You know, we know that we are being, usually up to about the age of 3 or 4. And then we start thinking, oh, I'm not enough just being who I am. I need to do something else or be something else to be approved of. And then if we do something then that brings out their disapproval, then it's, oh, I'm a bad person, or they don't love me anymore, or I don't deserve, you know, gratitude or love or graciousness. And we start throwing all those things into the pot. And so seeing ourselves as the innocent being that we are. And, you know, any of you that have never held a newborn baby, if you've held a newborn kitten or a puppy or any newborn life, it's awesome, precious, pure, sweet, loving. That's who you are. And if you think less than that of yourself, you've bought into a lie somewhere along the way. And those are just things that we need to forgive. We need to get rid of. And so canceling the goal, asking Rika to help, cancel your need to be right, allow it to change. There's a link. It's awesome about showing you that you hallucinate your reality. It's a TED Talk by a gentleman named Anil, A-N-I-L, Seth, S-E-T-H. And it's on how your brain hallucinates its reality. And it's an awesome TED Talk. And so, you know, I highly recommend anybody look at that. But our reality is what is between our ears, what's in our head. There is an actuality out here. Now, the actuality in this case is that your former is not being responsible. And the reality in your mind is, I'm a bad person because I have to point it out to him. Those are two totally different things. You maybe can't change him being responsible. You can make suggestions, but he can accept them or not. But you can change what you think about yourself. You can change that from, you know, I'm a bad person to I am a responsible person. I am innocent, and I am, you know, protecting my children and myself, and pointing out something that is incorrect to another person that's totally fine. And accept it as that, instead of putting the beating yourself up and, you know, claiming yourself to be something you're not, because you are innocent already. So if you cancel that goal and you ask Spirit to help you, cancel your need to be right and breathe, and you look back at the situation of having to point out, and you may look at it in general, that pointing things out to all kinds of people in your life, or maybe just pointing out things to him. You may look at it as feeling you need to beat up on yourself, wanting the other person to be responsible and see things for themselves, and feel innocent instead of feeling like you're a bad person. If you look at that whole scenario, what can you see about it now? What can you feel about it after you've canceled your goal? Ask Spirit to help you, and then look at that scenario. Can you see anything different?
I can just see where I need to address myself, like to do where my next worksheet's going to be,
Okay.
where I can hold that space for myself.
Okay. And that might have been a good goal, wanting them to help hold space. You know, they may not understand holding the space of love, but being a space that you can trust, and learning, oh, I've just got to learn to trust myself instead of looking for that trust in them, or take responsibility for myself instead of expecting them to be responsible. Do the worksheets on beating up on myself and actually see that I am innocent. And there's no right or wrong here. You know, a lot of times I'll do a worksheet and maybe start out working on sadness. And I get down here and I'm angry because I see I've basically done this worksheet a zillion times. Why haven't I got it yet? So what I might feel might be totally different. You know, okay, now I'm angry. And what I see in number one is that this is a repeat story in my life. So in your case, you said, you know, that now you can see where your next worksheet is. So what's a feeling that goes with, okay, I see where my next worksheet is.
I can see the pattern. I can see the pattern where, not necessarily where it's come from, but how long I've carried this pattern.
Right. And can you feel, it might be overwhelmed of the pattern, or it might be hopeful that, okay, I can see it is a pattern, or it might be sad, you know, oh, I see this is a pattern. So it could be a lot of things. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm happy now. I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
More of it, I'm fed up with this pattern. It needs to go.
And then could you feel relief?
Yeah, that relief of knowing that this is, I'm done with that. I know that it's going to be a process. That it's not going to be just, I can see that it's not going to be an overnight thing, because it's been a long time I've carried it.
Yep. Good. Okay, and breathe. Next frame. A principle of the universe is that by giving, I first get the original. I'm grateful for the opportunity to heal. I choose truth. Check it off. And perfect love. Remember, perfect love is, there's two filters in the mind. There's Rachma and Kuba. Rachma is over intentions. Kuba is over perception. And both of those words represent love. They've actually proven by doing EEGs of the brain that there are basically three emotions. There is fear, hostility, and love. And so Rachma is the filter of love in the frontal lobes of the brain over your intentions. And Kuba is the filter of love over your perceptions. And when both of those are set, it's referred to as perfect love. And in the scriptures, it says perfect love casts out fear. So if there's any fear or hostility going on, one of those filters is not set. So you need to get back to, you know, okay, I need to breathe. I need to set love, and then look at the situation again. So now, being grateful for the opportunity to heal, looking back at 1C, which is your former, and looking at the situation, wanting him to see it for himself. Can you structure a loving goal toward him, not for him, whereas you wanted him to see things for himself? This is a goal that you set in your mind that he may never know about, but it's a goal toward him and offer to him. It might look like, I'm going to continue doing my work, and I'll hold the space that somewhere along the way you do your work. Or it might be, I am going to offer to you that I will, from a loving space, continue to hold you accountable. You know, that even could be a goal, but it's a goal toward him that is up to you to fulfill that goal. It's not, you're not waiting for him to do it for you. Whereas the goal up in number 3, for him to see it for himself and for you to feel innocent, was totally outside of yourself for it to happen. Here it might be, you know, even I see myself as innocent, and I'll hold the space that you can receive constructive comments from me when it's going to be beneficial to our children or something like that.
Could I just hold offer to hold a space of peace for him?
Okay. Yeah. And by giving him the space of peace, you get the original. You'll have that space of peace within you. Breathe and be love, cleanse, and breathe in oxygen. Holding a space of love is to close your eyes, allow yourself to be quiet. With your awareness focused inside, think of that which inspires in you the clearest, strongest, most powerful love you are capable of feeling. Just breathe.
Even though this may seem a small thing that I've done for a worksheet, this is a huge piece of my my life. That has been really helpful.
Is there anything else I can clarify or any further process that you want on it?
I know where to work on now. It's like I know that point that I can go in and work on.
Yeah. And you know, it's more challenging when you share children with someone. Luckily, I did not, but you know, everyone chooses for themselves whether a situation is unhealthy and whether to remove themselves from a situation or whether to stay in it. And that's a choice that each individual person has to make. And knowing though that there again, for whatever choice is made, there will be a result. And I've worked with someone the other day and I said, okay, you know, they were trying to determine, they felt like the person they were with was toxic and they were trying to determine whether they were going to leave or stay. And I said, okay, make a list. If I leave, this is going to be the results. If I stay, this is going to be the results. And I said, then look at the results and see which one you can peacefully and lovingly be contented to live with. And I said, and that will help you make up your mind. So, you know, it's okay if there's, you know, and maybe it doesn't work, you know, with a former that, you know, your children are still involved with, but let's say the person that works behind the post office counter or whatever, and they're always bitter and, you know, whatever, and they trigger something in you. Well, there might be a point where you say, okay, I'm going to a different post office. I don't need to be in his space for that to be triggered every day. And you can choose to go somewhere else, and that's okay. But you want to keep doing your work around it, or you'll go to another post office and you'll run into another person that'll bring up the same thing. So you always want to, if you remove yourself from any situation, and that's your choice, but continue to work on what's triggered inside, or you'll just bring up another person to bring the exact same emotions forward because you've not healed it. Once you've healed it, then you could go into the space of that post office worker and they might do the exact same behavior. And you could be like, are you having a bad day today? Can I, I'll say a prayer for you, or I'll hold the space for you, that it brightens up for you or something like that. You would be able to do that instead of being triggered by them, because you don't have to take their behavior personal towards you. They're just behaving that way because of what's going on in them.
Because that is one of the things I want to clean it up within myself. Even if I was to walk away and that's it. Obviously it's not going to be, because we do have children together.
Right.
But it's that I want to clean that bit up within me, so I don't walk it into the next relationship, whether it's a partner or anybody else, with the same pattern.
Right. Exactly. And if you clean it up, then your children don't have to go into a relationship thinking, I've got to be the guilty one, or I can't be innocent, or I deserve to be treated this way or that way. You clean it up in you, it opens the door for them to step through and not have to deal with that.
Even if they've picked up my patterns, because they're old now, if I cleaned it up myself, is it a way it's
Right. Well, two ways that you could do that is, one, if you see them, say, pick up the pattern of, oh, I'm a bad person, or whatever, you could be like, I am working on that same thought on myself. And, I'm doing work around letting that go, because that's not true about me. It's not true about you. And, perhaps we can work on this together. And they may go, Mom, but we've also, like we've been working with Aria Rain, that's our granddaughter, and we have her 3 days a week. And we've been working on her on, when she says something, we'll cancel that goal. It might be, oh, watch, you'll hit your toe. And she'll go, well, cancel that goal. She doesn't want to hit her toe. And she's gotten to the point, she said, that she was at school and she hears her friends at school say things. And she said, I've tried to tell them to cancel that thought and they just don't get it. So I just cancel it for them. So, you might present it to your children and they might want to have nothing to do with the work, but they'll see a change in you. And sometimes when we admit, I know that's my fault too, I'm working on that. And, I apologize for passing that trait on to you. And I hope that when, I clean it up, that you'll help clean it up too. Then it gives them a thought of, huh? So it will get those wheels started turning anyway, where they think, oh, okay, Mom's going to be different. And then when they see that difference, then they might get interested and want to know more. Or, the Dragon Klingon game app on the phone is designed for kids. It's got an A to Z, like the alphabet, and it's got, if they have the volume up, it has a dragon that roars when they cancel a goal or release an emotion or whatever. Might introduce it to them that way, that they, can express whatever they want to express to that game. It doesn't keep it anywhere unless they want to print it off or something. But, that might be a way of introducing them to the forgiveness work. There's also on our website, if you go to whyagain.org and click on Start Here, and then when you go down, there's a section that says Reality Management Wake-Up Sheets. And when you click that, there are probably 30 different kinds of wake-up sheets out there. And there's Julie Haverstick. She was a teacher and she took this into the kindergarten first grade class. And so there's simplified worksheets. She called them work it out sheets. And so there's a work it out sheet 1, which is like super simple, like for kindergartner. Work it out sheet 2, work it out sheet 3, and then she moves all the way up to the teenager and adult. So a lot of times I've even worked with adults and they're like, there's so many words on that worksheet, you know, it's so complex. And so I'll pull out one of the children's worksheets and said, okay, let's do this one, you know, and it brings about the same result. And then as they build the brain cells, then maybe they go to the deeper, the one with all the information on it and all the definitions and things like that. But your children will see the difference. And, you know, if they've already picked up that pattern, it's kind of like if I go down and open the front door and then I have to close the door. Then if Michael comes down, he has to open the door and then he closes the door and then Aria comes down and, you know, so everybody has to do the same thing. But if I go down and open the door and I hold it open, then everybody else can come down and walk right through. Now it's their choice. They can choose to stay in and not come through the door, but it makes it easier for them to go through because I'm holding the door open. So it's like you do your work on it. It's your children may have picked up the patterns already and they'll have to do their work on it. However, they see you've done it and you're holding the door open. They can step through without having to handle it, but it's their choice now whether they're going to deal with it in their own way or whether they're going to step through with you. So you can't force them to change, but you can make it easier.
That's helpful.
Anything else, or anybody have any questions? Or
If anyone has any questions, if you raise your hand, I shall unmute you. Or if you want to put it in the chat.
there is another resource that's very interesting. It's, if you've ever heard of Louise Hay, Louisehey, there's a website called Alchemy of Healing, ALCAHMEY, I think, Alchemy of Healing. And she has a lot of the things that were in her book about healing your body out there. And she's right on with a lot of things, like, you know, if you're having foot or leg issues, you know, it's got to do with moving forward. You know, if like right now I've got a shoulder issue, and so I'm doing worksheets on, okay, you know, what am I trying to shoulder that I need to let go of? You know, it's not my responsibility to carry that load or whatever. And so I'm doing worksheets around that. I'm also having physical therapy done on my arm physically. But, you know, if I just took care of the symptom that's going on and didn't look at, okay, what's really underneath it, then it may get rid of the symptoms for a while, but it's not going to heal it. Just like, you know, if you've got a headache and you take an aspirin, that might get rid of your symptom, but it's not going to cure what caused the headache. You know, so she has a list of all kinds of body parts and organs and pains and things that, in her interpretation, what it might be indicating, you know, that to look at. So that's an interesting site. And so if anybody's having any kind of, you know, whether it's, you know, not being able to sleep, or you have skin rash, or, you know, like me, my shoulder hurts or whatever, there's just lots and lots of information. If you have eye problems, what is it you don't want to see? If you have ear problems, what is it you don't want to hear? You know, if your throat's sore all the time, are you not speaking your truth? You know, so there's, your body speaks to you, it manifests. It's like the alarm system in the room. It goes off to give you a signal that something else needs to be taken care of. And so when anything's happening to us physically, then we need to say, okay, what is it trying to tell me?
Yeah, mine's my throat here.
Then, and the worksheet we just did was about you speaking up and pointing something out to someone. So tightening that down, not wanting to do that. So being willing to soften that, let it go, being willing to speak your truth.
Yeah, because I've had to have a lot of therapy with it as well, just to, because as soon as certain emotions come up, it literally feels like it's being slashed.
Mm.
But I can feel it now, that sense of it.
Yeah.
Something's obviously
Yeah,
coming up.
Our bodies tell us, you know, we just need to listen.
We're doing a Louise Hay course at the moment with a mirror work course. I'm going to look up this alchemy as well.
Yeah, it's really a good site. Nobody has any questions? Everybody's okay?
No one's raised their hand.
Do you feel complete?
Yeah, I feel complete, and so much appreciation for going through
absolutely.
this.
Thank you.
Because I didn't know which part I was going to work on when it came on, but I knew I was going to work on guilt because I know that's something I've set myself. Like, I know this is something I need to address in myself. That even though it seems a small thing, I know it's a huge piece in my puzzle and my world.
Yeah.
that
Well,
keeps
if
coming
we
up.
hold, oh, I'm guilty, then we're going to draw into our space people that will point out to us and prove to us, yeah, you're right, you're guilty. So when we change that inside, they may come to us with the intent of pointing something like that out, but yet they come into the space of our love and, just being, and they forget what they were going to say or forget what they were going to do. Or maybe they go ahead and do it, but we're just in a space and can look at them and go, you must be in pain today. Or you wouldn't be attached to how they respond, how they behave.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I think we've got a song to play us out with.
Okay.
I just wanted to express appreciation to Jeanie and Michael who joined us earlier.
Awesome.
Someone's put a message in. Yes, our articulating system goes off like a faithful Labrador to bring us back evidence of our beliefs and thoughts.
Mm. Thank you.
I shall just leave that song, music playing to play it out. And I'll share all the information that you've mentioned throughout the session as well with this video.